Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to TinaO Life. These are stories from the core. This is my core car podcast. I don't even know what I'm calling it yet, so just hang in with me. I am hands-free for those of you who worry about that kind of thing. I am not looking. I am only looking at the road. However, I am recording. I'm talking in the car as I drive. Hands-free. Today's conversation, it is January 1st, 2020, and my word for the year is devotion. And so today's podcast is about that. What you may or may not know about me, if this is your first time tuning in to TinaO, to me, is that I'm a word nerd. And what that means is I'm a professional listener. I track words, I feel them. It's like I eat them for breakfast, I eat them for lunch. Words stick with me, they gong, they have a resonance that grabs me. And the word that grabbed me for 2020 is devotion. When I think about devotion, what comes up for me is a love beyond the physical space. Devotion is a word that to me calls on an otherworldly kind of love. It is, for some, that might be a spiritual thing. And I want to be really mindful about the boxes I put words like spirit into. Because, of course, all of us come to the table with the context of what certain words mean for us, right? And what I do and what I invite you to do whenever you're listening to anything I'm talking about, or frankly, anyone, is when you're listening to the words people speak, see if you can develop a practice on feeling those words rather than hearing them. For some of us, the hearing of them is the feeling of them, and that's the direction I'm going. Because words carry the energy from the person that they are spoken from, and they also carry the energy of the word itself. So devotion to me is love of a spiritual kind. It is of an otherworldly space. It is when we talk about the Bible, or we talk about faith, or we talk about sacred texts, and when we talk about sacred practices, we talk about going to church. What we're talking about is devotion, which is a practice of love. It's a practice of love that is beyond this human plane. It is beyond what we understand as matter. It is beyond even a cognitive understanding of faith. It is an experiential word of love. Devotion also has, to me anyway, has this element of laying it down. Meaning giving it over. It is a complete unzipping of the trap or of the kind of container that we are, to let what's inside out and let what's inside be loved. In a workshop that I lead with Nicole Natras, called Live Your Best Story, on the Friday night we do this thing where we get up and we share a story. But in the sharing of that story, what I say to people is, be seen, and you'll know you're seen when you see somebody else seeing you. Let yourself have an experience of being seen. We're seen all the time. We're totally seen all the time. Of course we are. People are watching all the time. Doesn't mean they actually see us. So there are also times in our life where we can let ourselves be seen, meaning our heart is open, we're kind of in what you might call flow state. But when we actually let ourselves see ourselves being seen, we are having an experience of being seen and what it feels like to be seen like that. Now, I don't recommend doing that all the time because, then it's kind of all about you, right? You're actually outside yourself, watching yourself. It's actually a little bit, all about you, and we don't want to do that. But if you give yourself the experience of being seen just every now and then and go, wow, I am seeing this person see me, in that place, that's what I'm suggesting that devotion is. And I'm going to be really careful. I'm not saying that watching yourself be seen is devotion. I'm saying that letting yourself be seen is a practice of devotion. And the only way to kind of figure out, well, what the hell is devotion, is just give yourself a few moments of seeing yourself be seen. And notice the kind of shaking that goes on, the vulnerability that goes on when you realize, holy shit, I'm being seen right now. So in 2020, my word is devotion. Who am I devoting myself to? What am I devoting myself to? How am I expressing that devotion? How am I living that devotion? And as a single person, 40, how old am I now? I just turned 49. I get to start my life this year as a single person going, who am I devoting myself to? And when I ask myself that, it takes on a really different filter. I happen to be someone who loves very easily. I am wildly naive in the best way, I like to think, where I see people in only, generally speaking, in only their highest good. In that way, I am lovingly naive. It is one thing to love someone. It's another thing to devote to someone. Now, I'm not saying that this year I'm going to meet somebody who's like, I'm going to want to devote myself to them. But as my word of the year is devotion, I might choose this year to let that be a focus and not actually love too many people, too many new people. What if this year on the word of devotion, the only thing I was truly open to was someone I would be willing to devote either myself to, my time to, this moment to? How might that change the way I approach dating? We have 3 resources. You've probably heard me say this before if you listen to any of my vlogs. We have 3 resources: our time, our money, and our energy. Knowing that, of course, money is just, the physical exchange, energy exchange. But let's be real, we got to buy groceries with money. We don't get to buy groceries with love. So from the perspective of dating, who am I willing to give my energy to? Now, if I take that in terms of my career, right, where am I putting my time, the investment of my money, the investment of my energy in terms of my work? There is a body of work that I am developing right now, working with leadership teams and leaders, influencers who can do things that actually affect change. I'm not talking about CEOs. I love my CEOs. They are the visionaries. It's actually the level below the CEOs who are making the decisions based on the vision of the CEO, but are making the decisions that impact change right now. And I am creating a body of work around, what if your work was sacred? So the verb of that would be, what if you were devoted to your work? 1, you might ask, am I working in the right place? When I go to work, is my heart in a place of devotion here? Can it be? Because I'm certainly not suggesting that you get to put on the jacket of devotion. Oh, today I'm just going to decide to be devoted. No. That's not what devotion is about. Devotion is you and only you. Right? And that might not ring true for some people. You might be like, are you kidding? Love is an unlimited resource. So then what I might be saying to you, if you're someone who doesn't do the you and only you thing, it would be like, who are my people? Or who is my work? If work was a person, it might be easier to understand. Who am I devoting my time to? Who am I giving of my most valuable resources to? Who is worthy, or what work is worthy of my valuable resources. And I'm certainly not suggesting that things aren't worthy out there. We are all worthy. Like, all of us have worth. And we only have as many times around the sun as we get, right? So let's say I am fortunate enough to get 90 circles around the sun, or 102 circles around the sun. In those 102 circles around the sun, who and what am I giving my most valuable energy to? What is worthy in my 102 circles around the time? I get we're all worthy, but what is worthy of my 3 resources? And to me, that's where devotion comes in. When I choose to see things through the word of devotion, I end up choosing. I choose. I focus. I weigh. I check in with my body. I go, whoa, is this an alignment for me? Is there resonance here for me? Everything is worthy, but what is worthy of my time, money, and energy? Work is a really interesting thing. You know, I totally get that some of us are free when we do what we love. Some of us are not. Some of us are free when we do what we do and we have what we love. It doesn't really matter. Like, for some of us, work is that thing that we spend our time doing so that we can have time, not working. That's not me. And I'm not saying that my way is the way. Because for me, when I look out there, this is what I say to my kids all the time. My kids are 18, 16, and 10. And they're 2 of them are on their career path right now. They're trying to figure that out. And I say to them, do you have any idea how many unhappy grown-ups I know? Lots of unhappy grown-ups. Meaning there's a lot of people spending time doing things that they're not devoted to, but that time is 80% of their life. So for me, what I'm listening for with people generally, and what I'm guiding my children for, and what I'm trying to live, is what is the thing that sets me the most free in heart? What is the thing that lights me up the most, that I have the most juice ever? And not because I'm on adrenaline, and not because I'm, all hopped up on excitement, et cetera, but I actually am so excited to get out of bed in the morning because I'm in my body, I'm in my life force. That is what I want to that's what I want to devote my time to. So for me, that includes my work. That's not everybody. No judgment there. But if we look at our work as sacred, how does it change? If we look at our money as sacred, if we look at our spending as sacred, if we look at the things that we commit to in our day as sacred, that's devotion. There are practices of devotion, of course, to keep us plugged into that devotion. I have a spiritual practice. I get up every morning, almost every morning, not every morning, but almost. I am human, but almost every morning. And now in the winter, it's a different practice than the summer. In the winter, because I live in a little cabin in the woods, I get up, I light 3 fires. I light my propane stove, 1 fire, put the kettle on. I light my actual fire in the fireplace and take all the time it takes to get that fire going, which is a really interesting practice unto itself of surrender. And then I light the 3rd fire, which is a candle of gratitude. And I always say, thank you, thank you, thank you when I light the candle. Then after that, I grab a piece of sacred text, which might be Rumi, it might be a piece of scripture, but I pick it up and it's that the text I'm looking to read is text that is closest to the source of creation as I can get. And so for me, sometimes that is poetry, because a poet writes from that source of creation. They don't write from a source of clever. Or it might be the Bible, or it might be, like I said, a Rumi reading. And I read that piece of sacred text from a place of experiencing the words, hearing the words in my body. And then I pray. And prayer for me is an act of writing. It's not in my head, it's an act of writing. And in the prayer, what usually happens is that some kind of answer and direction for my day arrives. So I just tell you all that because you might think to yourself, hey, what's my spiritual practice? And you might not have one. What I'll tell you is that starting a spiritual practice last fall changed my life. It changed me. It nourished me. On a cellular level, it changed me. And when we have a spiritual practice, devotion is closer. An understanding of what devotion even means is closer. We open our hearts more. We are less closed. We are more skilled, more practiced in what an experience of faith is. And all faith is doesn't have to be connected to a religion. Faith is stepping out into the unknown and saying, I am safe. I am stepping out into the unknown and I am loved. I am stepping out into the unknown and I am protected. I am stepping out into the unknown and I am held. Now, does that mean that we might not fall off a cliff that day? No, it doesn't mean that. Faith is not, what's the word? I want to say negotiable, but it's not negotiable. It's not equational. It's not when I have faith, then I am protected. It is the very act of faith means that no matter what comes our way, it doesn't knock us off of our center of being. That we belong no matter what. And when we have a practice of faith, devotion is easier because our heart is a little more open. We have some muscle in keeping that heart open. We have some muscle in the unknown. So what does devotion mean for me in terms of the practice of that and why I'm doing it and blah, 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 blah? Because I could have just chosen any word, right? Like I could have chosen the word happy, just because I didn't have a very happy year. I had some really ecstatically happy moments, oh my gosh, in 2019. But I was very unhappy at the end of 2019. So I could have chosen happy, but I didn't. I chose devotion. So for me, I'm on a path right now of my impact, and my impact in direct connection to the God-given gifts that I have. Something that I say in my story work with people is what you got for free is who you're here to be. And I know that one of the things that I got for free is the creation of a sacred container. Wherever I go, whoever I'm with, a sacred container is formed. And in that sacred container, stuff happens. Big stuff happens. And so I sit with why. What's it for? And not that it has to be for anything, because I don't prescribe to that. Like I say to my clients, we are made as something for something, but the for is a choice. We don't have to live the for. We are still worthy. We still belong. We are the great I am, whether we take on an assignment or not. And still, me personally, I'm signing up for the for. So as I live a life of devotion, my for gets clearer. As I have my spiritual practice, as I devote my three energies, time, money, energy, as I devote that towards something, that something gets clearer. I'm on a path of a ministry of story. It is still finding the house in which that lives. But what I have faith in above all else is the sacred container and what happens in that container. My faith is in that. It is in connection itself. What I trust is the mystery the complete unknown. Because in the mystery are clues that are answers, just waiting for me to hear them. And as I have faith in Sacred Container and trust the mystery, the embodiment for me is that I can hear things. And so this year, 2020, I am devoted to the practice of those three things: my faith, my trust, and my embodiment of listening. Because what happens after listening is we follow, or I follow. And my impact is directly connected to how I show up in the following. I invite you today to nestle into your word for 2020 and to harness a little bit of the energy I may have shared with you around devotion within that word and see where it takes you. Because what I know is that your story is your own personal myth that you are living out right now. And I'm not talking about myth like some weird thing that we make up. I mean myth as in directly connected as a carrier of creation itself. Myth has creation energy in it. You are created as something for something, and this beautiful unfolding of your life is the unfolding of your personal myth. So I invite you in 2020 to inject some devotion into your word and let your myth unfold. I'm TinaO from TinaO Life, and this is my car podcast. Number 1, devotion. Have a most excellent day.